can't drink wine from a dirty whiskey. It needs to be cleaned, wiped, very well washed. You can't, right? You can't pour new good wine or any beverage. You know, if the beverage is like misery was served them repeatedly, right? It's stained and like, no, you pour there some whatever, best tea, best sake, but will you know that? No, it will taste misery as well. So it doesn't matter what you add into your life. It all will add to misery. Or misery will have the aftertaste. So this is why it's so important to understand this once and for all. Why this is a prerequisite. When metamorphosis is welcomed, all that shedding of an old skin or rebirthing is welcomed. See?
I would love to relate something that happened in meditation today.
Mm-hmm.
Or through that whole week. Sort of become very apparent that every idea I could have about myself or that I ever had is completely meaningless. There's nothing where I could ever put my finger on, and that's me. That's became like showing up so much that all that basically is a stupid little lie. And then there were lots of lights in my head, and then there came this. It looked like an eclipsed sun, like black in the center, and then around there was this light, and I felt a strong pull towards, and it only showed for one, maybe even just a split second or something, and I felt like this strong pull towards, but I could not really enter or stay there long. It was like both, and I feel like this, like being invited to face truth in a way. That's what the experience feels like. And the kind of energy and this pull towards is so beyond anything. And yeah, on one hand there is this like nothing. I want nothing more than to go into it, and at the same time there's real terror or paralyzing kind of fear towards that. When I came out during the whole evening break, I was just so paralyzed. Yeah. And yeah, just asking your guidance on how to enter, how to deal with the fear, or what any insight.
Well, of course, it's tempting to simply say, don't be afraid. Like, kind of, in a more light-hearted way, don't be afraid. I know it sounds easier. It sounds easier said than done. But first and foremost, what I feel would be very beneficial for you is to simply get the reassurance of what you are now experiencing being very, very, very good. Without any invitation to latch to these experiences. I just want you to be simply aware that what has been touched, not what has been experienced. And you conveyed it very, very clearly in just few words. And it's exactly like that. Exactly like that. It is accompanied even by that whole sequence of revelations, like either like a domino effect, right? Or like, when something crumbles, everything crumbles, like it's enough to knock off one supporting something, like this Jengai, the game, when you put the wooden beams in certain order and then each one has to pull one out, one out, one out, one out, and sometimes and it's a whole thing that crumbles down. It's exactly how it feels. That what you have referred to as all ideas about myself, right? How meaningless they are. This has supreme value. What is touched in meditation, what was revealed to you, is not to be afraid, but to be kind of internally celebrated without latching to that experience. Because this is a quicksilver-like. And it is also accompanied by immediate fear, because it can come in a variety of ways. Before we penetrate into the light, we penetrate into the light. Language already waxing it completely, making it so opaque, because it's only light penetrates into the light. Just as in the day discourses, right? Light falls back onto itself. But at the local level of experience, that flip, complete turning, not degrees turning, complete flip, is always accompanied by tremendous fear. Tremendous fear. So it's not like you sitting here, you, Jonathan, afraid of that. People get prepared for it. Okay, you've done this training, right? You were at, right? You did some Sadhguru ashram, right? In Isha Foundation course. Right? I remember when you first came, a couple of years ago, was it? No? 2 years ago here. You related that, how you... But we're talking about people who have given really a lot of work and attention, and when it comes to that point, there is this fear. You can't, this fear is of primordial nature. It's like literally, we can speak about stepping into the abyss. And we can write poetry about this. But what does it actually mean? In true essence, what it means is a complete and utter turning. And that turning is accompanied by complete and utter unknown. You see? Everything that what is considered to be known here, suddenly seen through for what it is. So this flip, right at that moment when it flips, is accompanied by that almost like a self-preservation. That self-preservation, it wants to preserve itself from that complete and utter cosmic uncertainty. And yet, at the very same time, understanding that this is settled somehow elsewhere, and paradoxically nowhere but here. In other words, it is that what is experienced in you now as loss of points of reference, or seeing the meaninglessness of all that, what, let's say, here has been held together as so and so. And that, all that, even though seen through, right, still holds quite neatly into what I am here. Therefore, it is accompanied by whatever that is. It's meaningless. It's pointless. I see through it. I see completely entire whatever predicament, ridiculousness of it, farce of it, everything of it, and yet it's still somehow more secure, somehow more known. Because that, whatever is eclipsed, whatever is like, has this magnetic pull, and yet there is a repulsion towards it, that fear, and inability to join with it, just yet. You see, because what are you trading for what? So it's a staff of all true finders. This is when these things are truly squarely settled. So the understanding here, so it's not settled at the level of, well, I'm Jonathan, will decide. Okay? I will let it go. I will. See? It's already decided. Completely and utterly decided. Just as it was decided for Arjuna. You know, he has this monologue, dialogue, decalogue, you know, sitting, philosophizing, doing all these things that moves our heart, whilst Krishna is just like, all right, man, get up and fight. You don't believe me? All this is decided. Everyone you are like now feel so tender about are dead. And he shows that to him. He shows the whole thing. He reveals his form. You know, and Krishna, mighty warrior, is terrified. Terrified. He begs Krishna to regain his human form again. Well, at least I'm giving you this, right? Semi-poetic, right? That, you know, you probably know this very well. Like, heard this, I'm sure, if you've been in India. I hope so. Decided. Whilst Arjuna thinks that it's up to him. I will kill, I will not kill. Right? I will fight, I will not fight. You're a warrior, get up, man, do your job. Aha, you're still not convinced? Well, guess what? All is decided already. All done. It's not up to you, man. All decided. And, you know, you want more confirmation? Woo! You know, and that form is revealed. The essence of Krishna is revealed. And Arjuna is like, okay, you know, now, before they are mates, friends, hang out together, Krishna is his charioteer, he discloses all his concerns to him and all the rest of it. None of that now. The dialogue between the self from a lowercase and the self from the capital S is now settled. Everyone knows who is who in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Kurukshetra. See? So the self is now, okay, please take your human form back. You know, take mercy on me because it's overwhelming. You know? And this is not like some kind of a farmer or a tradesman, or right? This is right? Like Arjuna, you just can imagine. A warrior, kshatriya, right? Like trained to kill the demons by a dozen, you know, like demons. It's like the sheer sight of Arjuna on a battlefield makes the knees of mighty warriors tremble with weakness. And he begs Krishna to resumed his human form. Why am I giving this kind of what begin to sound like bedtime stories? Is so that there is something else slips in with these stories. So that you understand that what is done is done. Okay? And yet, at the very same time, it would be unfair to disclose it from you somehow. The true state of affairs, after all, the day discourse, I keep pointing here because I'm like, the board was here earlier and now. What we draw on the board as that pictorial representation, it's all about light bending back onto itself. So even that, what we spoke about as contemplation, when awareness contemplates on its essence, the world comes into existence. Shiva closed his eyes and world come into existence. He contemplates his essence. All this is taken for granted. We're reveling in that. Okay? Running around here and there, this and that. What a fabulous thing. And then contemplation is over. Shiva opens his eyes. The world ceased to exist. Okay? There and then. At least this is how folk speaks about it. But in both cases, it's just the modalities of contemplation. Modalities of contemplation. So it's already decided on your behalf, and yet it's going to take nowhere outside of your own self. You see? Nowhere outside of your own self. So this stepping into the abyss, you're not stepping anywhere. Not stepping anywhere. You cannot fall anywhere. You cannot fall. If you were sitting closer and I push you, your body may fall. You know, there's force of, right? Whatever, physics. There's amount of, right? I push. And you fall. But as the self, you cannot fall into any abyss. See? So this deeper understanding brings about deeper relaxation into that. So that metamorphosis takes place. And that flip can take place. And also, if there is not enough propensity, as Osho pointed out, in the kind of, again, in the language of allegory, many come out of the forest of samsara only to come to the edge of the cliff. Right? You come out of the forest of samsara and at the edge of the cliff to make that final leap. Most run back into the forest of samsara because they don't have courage to leap, to jump into the void. But the understanding here, you see, that it doesn't require leaping into an abyss. You see? Something else is happening here. This is why this teaching is being spoken in very precise terms. Not just giving allusions upon allusions, or clinically speaking about it, like clinically, at the level of the mind. It's spoken about it so that you have this platform of understanding what is taking place. So when that reversal movement is strong enough and the propensity is strong enough, it will flip that, irrespective whether you are, whatever, ready or not, because as we have now already established, there is no agent nor agency outside of what is happening. See? So it brings this, even in meditation, when this will become more recurrent, that state of that suspense, when all this will be a matter of settling it at that level where everything is settled and nothing is required on your part. See? But before it is settled, it is accompanied by this deep sense of fright, deep sense of, because it is a legitimate, a very legitimate feeling. See? Why is it causes so much trepidation, so much, like that? Why? Because it's what we spoke about yesterday. No? This is the waves, the two opposite waves. See? So there is this, something is checked by something else. So in another kind of manner of addressing this would be like, okay, well, it's ego putting up the final fight, or the mind, fighting for its survival, right? I just don't feel like going at that level of discussion. See?
Maybe something worth relating was after the darshan today, right? We talked about that. Shiva contemplating himself and creates therefore this world and experiences himself as that contracted individual, and then it seems as if the individual would then contemplate Shiva, where it's that because it's an image, right, in a mirror, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Shiva seeing himself in that mirror, thinks that he is that individual, and then thinks he can contemplate himself in that way, or that came really kind of to me or down. And that fear is basically the same thing, right? Like that image in the mirror that is there.
Yes, it creates some energetic response, that imagery, that, right? That reflecting on this, whatever that energetic response is. What creates fear is that what at the vintage point of individual, that apparent individual, which is nothing other than awareness, where everything is experienced here because of the boundaries. And it is within these boundaries there is this cognition taking place, and that ascertains itself. So there is this familiarity. So the point of what is experienced as constantly being made out of myriad of these boundaries, the finite point of view, infinity seems as a way too overwhelming from that perspective. It's that vastness is not just like a trivial thing. It's not vastness we read in a book. It's not even vastness that is tried to be portrayed in the cinema. When that is experienced, that sense of infinity, it's not just a tickling sort of poetic thing. It is truly and legitimately terrifying. Terrifying. So therefore, it's that. See? Terrifying. You feel like speaking more about this? For example, do you recall when we spoke about 5 faces of Shiva? Not like in these discourses, not with regard to these pulsating wheels of energy, but 5 faces of Shiva. It's creation, sustenance, right? Dissolution, concealing itself, and grace revealing power. Right? All have these Pancha Brahmanas, these 5 faces of Shiva. Right? Do you remember? Do you recall? Yeah? Each aspect here represents something. Each aspect represents something here. Each aspect. Each face of Shiva. See? And that aspect here, which is responsible for dissolution, see? That what dissolves everything, is often referred to as this, quality of Rudra. See? That quality that otherwise would be terrifying. But the corresponding aspect, corresponding face is Agora, non-terrifying. The term Agora is non-terrifying. See? So this is that relationship, see, that is given. So it is terrifying for every being who experiences that contracted state. But the essence of that power is non-terrifying. Just as with regard to Kali. Kali has a wrathful appearance iconographically, at least in a given culture. Right? All this garland of skulls, all this terrifying appearance. Terrifying. Right? Like grimacing, sticking out of the tongue, all this. There's nothing pleasing about Kali. But at the very same time, although she's known as devouring her own children, right, and carrying this garland of skulls, she's the great Ma. She's the great mother. So this metamorphosis is whatever is here terrifying, right, is of highest good as soon as it is seen for what it is. See? This is how it's like 2 sides of the same coin. So in a way, that what terrifies us, common folk, let's say, right, is desired by those who truly walk this path. Desired. So when that begins to happen, it's the most celebratory moment. Because before that, the power of Maya Shakti is too strong. Before that, everything, the whole matrix, everything is all intact. In fact, you cannot walk out of your own skin. You cannot walk out of yourself. You see a lot of reasons to be who you are. There's a continuous attempts at, in fact, improving oneself. Constantly trying to make it better.
Yeah, what feels now to me as the other side of that is just the utter ridiculousness also of the thing.
Yes.
That brings that, or that is that kind of celebration that I sense there. That it's it's inevitable in a way, right? And so yeah, like facing that lion, or right, and there's nowhere to escape, right? What you're gonna do? So when just before the Q&A now, there was this part, this rise of that ecstasy, that is, I don't know if it's the counterpart or whatever. Yeah.
Same connection, same relationship, same metaphysics, same connection. Why we not experience that ecstasy? Because the narrative eclipses that. This so and so is a narrative. See? And that narrative is holding everything, as it were, seemingly under control. And with that, acts as a contraction for ecstasy. See? So there is a direct relationship. The more that is released, the more that is let go, the more ecstatic we feel. We only feel squared, cornered, contracted, up until we hold on to something dearly, for dear life. And it doesn't matter what we hold on to. One can hold on to the most, superficially speaking, at the surface level, so-called envious setting, that one would be just like, whoa, if only. Or we could feel miserable, but we hold on and stick to our misery as well, just as much. I'm not talking about no, this is what funny about it, and paradoxically it's true. And we stick to that, what we know, and insist that that's what it is, and we want to improve that. We want to add something to it so that it's kind of like makes it better. You know? This is why you can't drink wine from a dirty whiskey. It needs to be cleaned, wiped, very well washed. You can't, right? You can't pour new good wine or any beverage. You know, if the beverage is like misery was served them repeatedly, right? It's stained and like, no, you pour there some whatever, best tea, best sake, but will you know that? No, it will taste misery as well. So it doesn't matter what you add into your life. It all will add to misery. Or misery will have the aftertaste. So this is why it's so important to understand this once and for all. Why this is a prerequisite. So this is why this is celebrated. Of course, my job is to reassure you, also reassure you that it is exactly how it felt. Exactly. Yes, más o menos how it, it could be more somatic, it could be more psychic, right? It could feel nauseating, literally nauseating, like in Paramahamsa Yogananda. At some point you see the nauseating nature of this samsaric experience. It has something like you want to puke it out. Or it can be experienced in a psychic way, not so much somatically. But one way or another, there is this moment when that flip takes place. And one could say, well, yes, courage is required. But you are now touching to this yourself. You understand that there's no other way. It will be done. Thy will be done. And then there is this suspense. See? So when metamorphosis is welcomed, all that shedding of an old skin or rebirthing is welcomed. See? Welcomed. Just as a woman giving physical birth, and if she is not somewhere messed up in the mental department, that this is natural process, millions upon millions upon millions of women have done that. And there is this whole cascade of endorphins, like today's, in many, many countries, Latin countries, women don't want to experience pain. They want a cesarean right there and then. Just don't spoil my bikini line. Cesarean. No, in advance. I've heard that. In Brazil. It's a huge thing. Huge thing. And yet natural birth has incomparable benefits. Yeah, of course, we're not talking about exceptions out of the rule when life of the mother is at stake. So let's not just like suddenly can throw it against what is being spoken. There are cases.
I would have not been born.
Yeah. Yeah, so there are cases when that needs to be performed. But women already give consent and request. See? In advance. Whereas nature, there is this, you see, and these endorphins, when it's welcomed, pain is welcomed. That pain becomes holy. Holy. I didn't witness it, I didn't experience it myself. So for me, it's like speaking about it. It's like, who the heck are you to speak about it, man? And just like stick with the spiritual discourse. Why are you going into the territory? It's like but I was there. I was there. At least with 3 of my 5 kids that I fathered. I was there fully. And I have seen, what woman's body is capable of. Exhausted completely, as if run marathon, And then she's like heroically gives that because she decided she will give birth as all the mothers and daughters did. You see? Spiritual birth is like that, rebirth. And when this is understood, endorphins come, and then bliss. Bliss pours in completely. And when bliss is there, you don't feel pain. You don't feel pain anymore. Whatever that pain was prior to that. See? So this is my job to tell you that I went through this firsthand, that everything that what you speak of, pointlessness, completely. There was nothing I can put my finger. You put it so well in a very, very few words. Nothing. And that, at that time, the only power that completes that is exemplified by that ardor. Because you're no longer turning back. You're no longer turning back. You know that this is the way of birth and rebirth. This is the way. And no push is even required. See? Because you will be taken into that what feels like you're eager to unite with or eager to enter.
Thank you.
So don't be afraid.